5 things I would never do as a photographer. There's a trend going around on social media where professionals share the top 5 things that they would never do, knowing what they know in their area of expertise. And in this case, because I'm pretty knowledgeable about photography and I had opportunities to work with different types of photographers and shoot different types of photography, I thought I would share with you the top 5 things that I would never do when hiring a photographer. The first is hiring someone only based on their price. And while that seems like the right thing to do, because your budget is here and you want to stay within that budget, sometimes your budget is here, but your expectations are way up here. And so there's that misalignment of how much you're spending versus how much you're getting. For example, some photographers work based on volume, which means they try to keep to a relatively low price point, but then provide kind of that minimal level of services versus photographers on the higher end who will provide the top tier of quality. So it's just a matter of aligning your expectations with your budget. Number 2 is hiring someone who immediately says yes to working with you. And in some cases, that may be fine because photographers have their standard rates, but in a lot of cases, jobs need to be priced specifically for the circumstances. And what I mean is that every location, the number of deliverables, what type of gear is needed for the job, all of those things affect the cost of the service. I've been approached in public while I'm shooting photos and people have asked me what's your price? And I can't give them a price. I can give them a starting minimum, but that doesn't really tell them what their final photo shoot is going to cost, because if they need studio time, if they need permits, if they need multiple photographers, all of that is going to add on top. And going back to the first point on matching with the price expectations, is that sometimes people will approach me and I know immediately I'm not the right fit for them, either because I'm too expensive or I can't provide that upper tier quality of service. And so I have no problem recommending them to someone else who is more experienced in the area where they need the work done, or even saying, hey, I know someone who's a little bit cheaper who can meet your price point. Next is hiring someone based on the way they edit. Now, that might seem, based on the first point, like a smart thing to do, like find a photographer whose style you like. And while I agree that's important, most good photographers can edit in a variety of styles, meaning maybe for one shoot, it's to match a particular brand's aesthetic. For another shoot, it's to match the requirements of that model or that wedding or whatever it is you're shooting. So if one shoot you're shooting very classic, very traditional, and the next shoot you're shooting more moody, more orange, more colorized, good photo editors understand how to get those different styles. And depending on the lighting, depending on the camera you're shooting with, the lens you're shooting with, who you're even shooting, the results can be vastly different. When someone approaches me right off the bat, I will tell them I don't edit every photo shoot the same. But if there's a photo shoot in the past that I've done or a photo that you've seen of mine that you like, let me know and I can try to accommodate that. Maybe that will mean adjusting the time of our shoot, or that I bring a different set of lenses, or that we meet in a different location. Now, this next one might be a bit controversial, but it's using an all-in-one photo video service. And this particularly applies to weddings, where you have things like hybrid coverage. And while that might sound great, the problem is that a good photographer is not necessarily a good videographer. I would recommend, if you're someone, for example, who's looking for wedding coverage for both photo and video, to find 2 separate companies, or at least find a photographer who you like, whose personality, whose style that you like, and find a videographer whose personality, whose style, and whose price point you like. The biggest thing I struggle with when I've done hybrid coverage in the past is doing a good job at both. Photo and video require different sets of equipment. They require different settings on your camera, and constantly switching back and forth and thinking in those 2 different brains means it's very easy to overlook the requirements of one in favor of the other. I always recommend hiring the best photographer for the job, but there's one case where I recommend not hiring a photographer, and that's for headshots. Whether it's for LinkedIn or profile photos, I don't think you need to go all out and hire a professional photographer to achieve those things. Most people have a cell phone that's good enough to take a picture that's good enough for LinkedIn. Or in a lot of cases, you have a friend who has a DSLR or a mirrorless camera who you could probably pay $50 to and will take an excellent headshot for you. Now, there's one exception to this rule, which is if you need a studio quality headshot. Like if you need it with a specific background to match a specific corporate look, then yeah, you gotta hire the professional photographer. But if it's just for a profile photo, for your Facebook profile, for a dating profile, just get a friend to take it. It'll be perfectly fine. And that's it. Those are 5 things that I would do when looking to hire a professional photographer. I have another selection of 5 things that's more about technical shooting things that if you want to see, leave a comment below and I'll make that video as well. I think we'll be back next week with more tutorials, more fun stuff, more short form content. So subscribe if you want to see that and stick around. And if you do, I'll see you in the next one. And I totally forgot to announce the 5,000 subscriber Q&A giveaway. So I'm actually going to go through and randomly select one right now. This is not sponsored by Deity. Not. That is a flying spider. That is not a mosquito. I have the list and I'm going to randomly flick through this and stop whoever that is. Sapphire. Can you see it? That's the one. That's the one that my thumb landed on. And we'll be doing a 10,000 subscriber something. I don't know what yet, but something. So stay tuned for that.